Hey, Jamie here, Enigmatic Pneumatics. We're still at the Van Bill Party 2017. Today is day 19. And if you noticed in a previous video, in the dark, it was just a real quick upload. I asked everyone to pitch in for a pretty cool guy who could do for some solar. I put a Amazon wish list up with some components for that, and even use the link that I always have for my PayPal donate, and guys chipped in on that too. And so now the time has come that we have the equipment, and Donnie is here. I'm gonna get him in the shot right now. This is Donnie.
Oh.
There we go. And I'm gonna show you a little bit of the equipment. It's in the boxes, but I'll just show you. You'll see the whole thing, and we'll meet his family. We will get to know him a little bit, then install the solar. On top here are two of the batteries. We're just looking at boxes, but thank you, Richard, for picking up the batteries. Here are some of the Renogy solar panels. We're just looking at boxes, but I think Donnie actually started on one of the panels, putting the Z brackets on. I don't know how we're going to lay them out yet. I haven't really looked at the job. Here's another battery at the front of this mountain bike tire. You can see at the box. So I'm going to have to get that battery over there. It's going to be pretty heavy. Batteries, panels. I already gave him the solar controller, so he's got possession of that now. And his inverter came in. Anyway, everything is in, and Cammie is going to film for a while, then Aaron's going to film for a while. Donnie's going to help me with the installation. It might just be me and him today. No matter, we'll get it done. Follow us along and check it out. I think you'll like it. See ya. Here we are. I put the video out a couple weeks ago about getting the equipment, and so let's meet the folks that are going to get the solar installation today. Tell us your name, a little bit of background.
All right, I'm Donnie Banks. This is my wife, Brienne.
Hello.
I was in the military for a long time. Before that, I did factory work and, just mostly working with my hands. I ranched, I worked on a fishing boat, I worked shrimping, I did whatever I could. Then I met my wife and had a kid, and then joined the Army and got broke, so that's where I'm at right now.
What happened? I see you have a cane there. Is it related to when you were in the military?
Well, I carried a lot of weight on my back because I'm a Ford observer. Some of you might know what that is. So I carried a radio on my back and 2-3 batteries plus my MRE. Love, sit baby girl. And I just carried a lot of weight on my back, and then eventually it just gave out. It just happens.
Were you able to finish your amount of time, or how'd that go?
I missed it by like a month and a half. Like literally, like I would have had 8 years perfect, but I got injured. What was it? 6 years in. 6 years in. So, and I wanted to go to Afghanistan with my guys, but they told me I couldn't even go to push papers because I couldn't wear my vest. So it was just kind of. Yeah, it kind of hurt. I got fractures down my spine. Like all my bones are cracked, and then I got bulging back to discs in my lower back.
Well, how old a guy are you?
I'm only 36.
36 years old. Is this something you can heal from?
No, this is gonna put me in a wheelchair eventually. I've already lost 2 inches, so 2 inches of height is gone.
Because you were in the military, now you've lost 2 inches of your height,
right,
and you have fractures in your back that
right,
you're gonna have to manage the rest of your life.
Right.
I think that is really a tremendous sacrifice, and so the fact that we can put solar on your rig to give you one less thing to worry about,
right,
is such a minor thing compared to what you did for the country.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone who gave me something. That's great, and if you didn't, either way, I appreciate it.
And I also want to stress that we think you could get the solar yourself. We think you could cover the cost of the solar yourself. This isn't something that we're doing because we don't think you could do it yourself. It's something that we're doing as an act of love, and that's really what it is.
Right. I appreciate it.
What have you guys been doing for power up until today?
Generator mostly. So that's what we do. We only hook up to actual power. Like, we don't like being on concrete, so anytime we can be without concrete, we're happy. And we've been plugging into the generator and just using that. So.
How will this solar change things for you?
Well, we'd run everything. I mean, the only time we actually run the AC, or run it, is for the AC, I apologize. I mean, we just do it for the dogs when it gets really hot, and then I make coffee in the morning. So, I mean, other than that, we don't use the generator for much.
If you're off-grid most of the time, like you're saying,
Right.
not connected to shore power,
Right.
having this supplemental solar is really going to make a big difference.
Right.
It's going to save you fuel on the
Absolutely.
generator, and it's also going to save you the noise of the generator running.
Yes.
You know, so
Right. Right. I mean, everything else that's in here. I mean, we have to recharge the batteries because the son uses his electronics, and then we watch TV when we have it, so we can see what the weather's like. But other than that, yeah, we're pretty good, like preserving as much power as humanly possible.
you say you don't have to worry about water.
Right.
After today, we'll make it so you don't have to worry about power either.
Hell yeah.
I think this is going to be nice. 400 watts is substantial.
Roger.
And you said that you wanted to tilt the panels.
Right. I have the brackets and everything for it. I already went and got the brackets for it. So
Okay.
I already have those tilt brackets, and then I got some angle aluminum so that the aluminum can be on the aluminum frame, and then that's going to go on either side. And then I got 2 long aluminum pieces that I'm probably going to have to cut down because I'm pretty sure they're too long. I didn't even need to measure them. They were like 9 feet tall.
Well,
And then I was going to put those in the center to brace the center of the panels. And then those panels will be one piece. We won't have to worry about that.
show me how you want to do it, and I'll do it.
Roger.
And show me how you want to come in and where we're going to mount the solar
yeah.
controller and the inverter and all that jazz. And you guys that pitched in to buy all this stuff are going to now see it manifested in use and know the folks that it's going to. So I'm really happy about that. Cammie running the camera is going to help me because I just saw in the background that Erin has showed up and she's going to be the camera person from here on in. So I've got Cammie, me, Donnie, and we'll see how far it goes today. Maybe it'll take all day, maybe it'll take 3 days, I don't know. Maybe some other people will pitch in.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. We're just going to start and see how it all shakes out.
Nope.
So with that, let's get going. Let's get started.
Nope.
All right.
Okay.
How do you want to install these?
So I got the L bracket so I can connect all 4 together. And then I've got this. I've got 2 of these. They're going to be center braces. I'm going to drill holes that are 1/4 inch so that I can bolt it directly to the panel since the panel already has holes in the bottom. So I just have to measure where the holes are once the panels are up here. And these are going to go in using self-tapping screws
Into the panels.
into the panels, 3 each, 1 on top. So one's gonna come into the side and go through, and one's gonna come from the bottom and go through. And that'll hold all the panels together. And I have downstairs, I have a bracket for mounting it to the roof itself.
Do you have hinges?
Yeah, right.
Well, let's get the hinges up here. I'll start. Do we want it? Let's just build it up here so we're not
That's the
carrying 4
idea.
panels.
So bring the panels
So
up here.
I'll start bringing the panels up, and then we'll start putting it all together.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Putting an aluminum L bracket on the outside of these panels to essentially make it one acting piece of material, because these panels are going to be elevated towards the sun to get the maximum. When you tilt panels, you pick up about 15, sometimes 20% more power. And these aren't going to follow the sun. They make devices that do that, but they are going to tilt towards the sun, which is going to make this 400 watt array of panels even more powerful to bring his batteries up to full capacity, even in the winter time when the sun sits low.
You wanna hand me that?
What do you want?
My measuring tape, please. 1 second. Just knock it over. Thank you, sir. There we go. Yeah, that locked in good. Fantastic.
What is it you did in the military?
I was a Fort Observer.
What's that mean?
I called for fire. I called in 155s and 105s and 60 and 80 millimeters, and then 1,000-pound bombs, 500-pound bombs. So
What would they be called in? What would be a case where that would be necessary?
Well, it depends. Usually it's dug in soldiers because we like to go in and confront the enemy first. You know, the only time I'm actually blowing something up is when we can't get to them. So when they're dug in, you know, they're in a building that's a hard building, can't get through it.
Like do you have American soldiers that are stuck
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
no, it's more like if we're in a firefight against an enemy who's dug in a house and there's no way we can enter that house safely and remove them without injury to ourselves, then I would have to call for fire.
Gotcha.
Then I'd bring artillery in to break whatever barrier they have, and then afterwards we'd go in and sweep and then see who's left. So that would be the kind of thing I do.
And you did that for how many years?
4 years in the desert. So.
And you still wind up in the desert in the end.
Anyway, what's the difference?
Since Donnie marked this aluminum brace where he wants the holes, there's nothing left for me to do now but to make the holes. And so I'm gonna put this on a piece of 2x4 and I'm gonna use some clamps. I would say like these, but it actually is these. I'm gonna use these clamps to hold it. You can buy these clamps online. I'll put up a link. That way it doesn't move around. While I'm messing with it, I'm gonna drill some holes, I'm gonna cut the end of it off. And what I'm gonna cut the end of it off with is a disc grinder. Yeah, it was Jake at the first night or two of the van build that had mentioned Donnie's power and that he could use the solar. And so I just threw that video up right that same night. And everybody came in really quick and picked up the cost of the equipment and pitched in some extra stuff on PayPal to be able to take care of the ancillaries. And so here we are putting it in. So thank you for donating through the PayPal button and being patrons and picking up the equipment on the wish list, because that's how we're doing this, because you guys. So thank you. I'm sure Donnie and his family will thank you every time they turn on a switch. All right, that's one. I probably should have put a clamp closer to this. I'll do that on the next one. That's one. Let's mark the next one and get the next one done. Donnie's got the top all going for a while. He doesn't need my help, so Cammie and I are now going to go inside. We're going to remove the pre-existing coach batteries and replace them with the ones that were donated by Richard, maybe some other people. I'm not sure if he picked up all three or not, but they were definitely bought off of the wish list that was made for Donnie. So we're going to go ahead and cut those boxes open, get the old ones out, and get going on the new ones and get them all wired in. What we have here for Donnie and his family, purchased by you guys on the web through the Amazon wish list, are universal batteries, 12 volt, 100 amp hour. What does all that mean? Well, they're 12 volts, so we're going to wire them in parallel. When you wire things in parallel, the voltage stays the same, but the amps are additive. So it'll still remain a 12 volt battery, but instead of it being 100 amp hours, it'll be 300 amp hours because there's 3 of the batteries. What that means for Donnie and his family is that they can use about half of that safely for the battery life. So they'll be able to discharge these batteries to the tune of about 150 amp hours per day. Now bear in mind, when they're using power during the day, they're gleaning power straight off of the solar panels for most of the time when the sun's hitting those panels in the maximum part of the day. And so it's not really taking as big of a toll on the batteries as when it's nighttime when they're using power. So really that 150 amp hours is more robust than it might sound. And actually, if he's not running a refrigerator, if there's no refrigerator involved, just little handheld electronics, laptops, things like that, he should have no problem with these batteries meeting him and his family's needs. Another feature with AGM batteries is that they're sealed. You've got AGM gel, flooded. You've probably got other ones too, lithium, you know. I'm not a battery expert, but in this case, these are sealed, and by them being sealed, that means they're not going to discharge or outgas inside the vehicle, so they're safe to be in the same living space with us, and they can be put on their side, they can be stacked, although I wouldn't feel comfortable stacking a lot of them on each other and having the frame have to hold other batteries' weight, but they can be on their side and they're not going to outgas anything to make that a concern for the family. You mind grabbing those other two batteries and bringing them?
Yep.
Because of you guys picking up the batteries off of the wish list, Donnie and his family are going to go from 2 100 amp hour marine grade batteries to 3 100 amp hour AGM sealed batteries. So he's going to pick up another 100 amp hours, and they're all brand new. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Thank you.
What's the different ways you can wire batteries?
You can wire them in series and in parallel. That's basically it. And then within series and parallel, I guess there's different ways you can wire them too. But basically, you want to try to draw energy from the batteries in the most even way possible. So what I'm doing in this case is I'm going to take these two batteries and wire them both to this one, so they're flanking it and it's not going first, second, third. I'm just trying to figure out the way to do it the most even way to draw energy out of the batteries. It makes the most sense.
Are you going to wire them in series or in parallel?
These are going to be in parallel because when you wire in parallel, the voltage remains the same, but the amperage is additive, and they're 12-volt batteries, so we don't want to increase them to 36 volt. We want to keep them 12. So parallel is the move in this case.
So what I got is I have this positive going to this positive, and then I'm going to have this negative going to this negative, and that's going to be my primary negative going to here, and this is going to be my primary positive going to here. And then I'm going to take everything else that's going to go from here to the solar controller, which is going to mount like this, recessed in the wall. And then tomorrow, what we're going to end up doing is installing the panels completely, because today I'm going to be doing rubber roofing on the top to seal an 11-year-old roof. And it's the Henry's 12-year warranty one with the, I think the wife said it was a green top on it, and it's a white container you can get at just about anywhere. So this is actually the male part. So the circle is the male part, and it goes on to the female part, which has a male end. So the actual female end has a male point, and the male end has a female point. And when they go in, they connect like this, and instead I had them in the wrong ones. So what we've done is Jamie has moved the panels back there, and the reason that is because I'm going to rubber roof this entire area to seal it, because it's an old roof. I know I've probably said this a million times, it's probably on the video a million times, but I have to tell you, this is an 11-year-old roof, and when an 11-year-old roof has seen sun, if you can see it, there's little lines inside the fiberglass. Now those lines are the fabric of the fiberglass, and it's slowly being torn apart by the sun, and it leaves tiny little micro holes. Nothing you can see. You'd have to get like a magnifying glass to see any of the pores, but the pores themselves won't create a direct leak. They'll allow moisture to build up in them, and then it'll go under that, and it'll kind of mess with the layer that's underneath. Now I have styrofoam. It depends on what you have. Some people have actual insulation. If you have actual insulation, it's gonna basically mold in there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rubber roof it, and then those micro holes I won't have to worry about for, say, about 10 years. This is what I've done. So I've drilled the holes for the brackets. Each one of these brackets has 6 small holes and 1 large hole. Now this is 1-inch screws for the small holes, and it's a 2-inch screw for the big hole. And the reason why I'm doing a 2-inch screw instead of a 1-inch screw in the middle, which I could buy a 1-inch screw, is because I have 4 inches of foam, and I have a stud going through this portion of my house. So I want this to be my anchor. So this is my anchor, and if I screw it all the way down into the wood, you can see that the anchor doesn't move. So this is my anchor bolt. It's a screw, but you know, if you were on a van or whatever, you would use bolts. You always want to use whatever is going to hold to the roof the best. And underneath that, I'm going to put this piece of rubber. So when this goes down on the rubber roofing, it's going to be rubber on rubber, and it's going to drill straight through. I'm going to put die-core on each screw, so that when I go through, it seals every single screw, and then die-core over it, and then everything else will be rubber. So that should work. I just have to clean the roof, make sure that there's no filings on it, because we've drilled through metal on here, like this. This stuff has to go away. If it gets under the rubber roofing when I do it, then I'm gonna step on it and it's gonna scratch and make holes in the roof. It'll make holes in the rubber roofing. I have a shock vac over there that I'm gonna be using, and I guess I'll get to it. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting rubber roofing on. There is rubber roofing on the screws. Some people might be upset about that, but it's really easy just to peel off, especially on metal. So I'm just trying to get around and get as much of this rubber roofing down. And this is just a first coat. Then when I'm done with that, using the brush, I'll be using the roller to smooth everything out. I just want to make sure that there's rubber there, so when I do smooth everything out, I don't have to go back and go underneath the screws. The screws are inside for one reason only. If I paint over the holes, it will tear on the rubber roof that's on top of the roof, and I don't want to do that. I want to do as little as I can to that rubber. Yeah, so after this I'm gonna get the roller and we're gonna get it straight. All right, so today's the third day of the build. We have, as you saw before, we already framed all 4 of the solar panels. I prepared the roof with rubber roofing. Yes, there's a little bit of dust on here. You probably see from the bottom of my shoes because I wasn't careful. So all I have to do is pull these screws out, which isn't very difficult. You know, even with the rubber on it, it'll still fit whatever you're using. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out all the screws and we're gonna put putty underneath. So this putty is gonna go over these holes and the screws themselves are gonna go through this putty. But first, they're gonna go through the footing, and what's on the footing is I have Loctite, which looks like Loctite, which looks like this, and it's a double-sided adhesive. Everything in my house is held up by this stuff. All the pictures, everything. I go off-road. It's the best stuff in the world. So I know it's not gonna slide on there at all. I know this is probably overkill for some people, but I just wanna make sure everything's perfect. So I already did the rubber roofing. No, I'm not gonna make it a flat coat. I like it like this. I could go over with a brush and make this all nice and neat and pretty, but it's not what I'm gonna do. So this is gonna go down. I'm gonna put 2 pieces of clay. This is gonna go over it. And then I'm gonna put Dicor. Whoop! I'm gonna put Dicor over the holes. And then these are gonna go straight through into the roof. And that's what's gonna secure the brackets that are on the bottom of the 4 panels. So this is the clay, the roof clay. As you can see, what I'm gonna do is I already pushed this through specifically so I could see where that bump was. And then I pushed down to find that one hole. This is the only hole that I'm pushing down on the clay. Everything else is gonna get flattened by the rubber. So rubber on rubber, that means this plate will never move because of friction. Yay, physics. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line it up, and then we're gonna take some Dicor, if I can get that part off, and we're gonna put just a little bit of Dicor on that, and a Dicor on each one of these holes. So every time I drill into these holes, what's gonna end up happening is some of that Dicor is gonna go on the threads, and that's gonna help seal it. I won't have to worry about leaks. Is that going through? Where is it? It should be in the hole, right? Okay, try number 2. There we go. Alright, so now that screw is taking Dicor all the way in there. You have clay, rubber, Loctite, bracket, Dicor. And then when I'm done putting all the screws in, I will put Dicor on top of this and Dicor all the way around the rubber to make sure that no water, when it's running through these channels on the roof, will go under there and get into my roof. That should be good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move the panel over there. Brian and Vanessa are gonna move it and then set it on the feet. And as they're doing that, the front feet first, I'm gonna screw those in, but you don't tighten them all the way. If you tighten them all the way, when he brings down the panel, then they won't move. And that'll just pull everything up. We don't wanna do that. So let's get to it. All right. The last thing we need to do is we have cables to run. How I'm running these cables is I've taken 2 panels and I put them together with Y sections, which takes the 2 panels and puts them as one. And I'm gonna run those cables straight down for one, and then I'm gonna run it for the other, and then we're gonna go into a ferret, which is basically a metal piece that allows you to take 2 wires, come into the piece of metal, and then make another wire, a larger wire, coming out to whatever you need it to go to.
All right, what's up, Johnny?
So basically, these are the screws that came with it. They're 3/4 inch screws, all right? I wanted to put all these in, 2-inch screws. The holes were too small, but I went with these anyways because this is what comes with the kit. So I went with what they had, and now we found out that these suck and they won't grip as much. So I recommend using 2-inch screws on everything, and apparently I was right. But live you learn. Always use the longest screws possible. I have 4 inches of roofing, so I can go 4 inches in. I'm going 2 inches in to get as much material as I possibly can. So now in all the corners and the center, I'll have these, and then I'll have 2 of these in there just for good measure. It's good we figured it out now before the panel came up and off the roof. So, done on the top. I have nothing left to do underneath the panels or with the panels. The wires are going through underneath this plate, which had my antenna for my Siri radio, which has to go on a metal plate for it to ground to. My red and black wires are heading in from both panels, or both sets of panels, going down into the house. And the only thing we're waiting for now is for Jamie to finish that box, which has my inverter in it, and we can wire everything up inside, and then we'll be done.
Nice.
So, it looks pretty, I hope, on camera. And then as soon as we're done with the electric stuff, all I've got to do is rubber roof the rest of it.
We are now on the downhill side of Donnie's installation, which means we're just about finished with everything buttoned up on the roof. We've got wires stubbed down and our solar controller mounted where Donnie wants it. I don't usually do this, but Donnie wanted a special inverter installation, so Lee and I made that happen for him. So this is his inverter here, and the button for it to turn it on and off, the remote is right here, and the inside looks like this, kind of like a science project. That way he's got a decorative box for his inverter.
So pretty.
That he can use for other things besides just sticking out in the breeze. So we're now going to wire right here. The battery that you see is one that was donated from the wish list, along with 2 others that are underneath this plate. They're wired in parallel to come out here. We're going to wire our inverter onto this, and then our 10 gauge wire. Where is it? Oh, we're going to put terminals on that we have right here, 5/16. If you need the right ones, I'll put a link up to these because it's hard to get these. You can't get them at Harbor Freight. So we need 5/16 diameter to go on the battery. We're going to wire it up into the solar controller, but we're not going to just put the raw wire up inside there. We have these ferrules that we're going to put on the end of the wire, and then there's a special crimp tool that crimps it square. We push them up inside on the back of the solar controller, and it makes for a very secure, tight fit. One less thing we have to worry about rather than pushing that wire out. So we're pretty close to the end, and I'm getting pretty excited to see this whole thing light up. So let's go ahead and get started on this part of it. Batteries up to the solar controller by way of opposite negative to opposite positive on the parallel wiring. We're going to use a inline fuse, and we're going to use 30 amp as our fuse. And when we put all this together, we want the battery to charge the controller before the photovoltaic hits it. So if you're doing this at home, you always want to power the controller up by the battery first and the solar panel second. And you can do that. You don't necessarily have to have an inline fuse on the panel side, but definitely on the battery side, you want to just go with a 30 amp, you'll be in good shape. And you can put that in last if you want, you know, just leave it out, and so it's an open circuit. And then when you get done, put your 20 amp fuse in.
30 amp fuse.
30 amp fuse in. They're green. Sometimes they're translucent, but 30 amps are green.
Did you make this?
Just so you know. When you do butt splices, by the way, save yourself a little bit of dexterity points and just put one on first. You don't have to do them both at the same time. It's a lot easier that way. Alright, so let's get some more cable. Jason, could you hand me that roll of cable sitting right there? That black roll of cable, it should be right in front of you.
Outside.
Here, look.
Oh, it gets under that plate. Come on.
I'm so scared myself.
All the way under. There we go. That's one.
Blue. What? Oh, sorry.
That's alright.
Oh, jump on the top. Get the other one.
Stay back.
Come on.
Stay
All
back.
right. There we go.
Stay back.
Pretty much had to take.
Stay
I did have to take
back.
the whole thing out. That's not good. Come here.
No.
Come here.
Jump.
Get in there. 1, 2, 3.
Shoot it. Come on. Squeeze, squeeze. I'm squeezing it. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
And that should give us light.
Let's squeeze.
Yeah?
Why don't we have a light?
Because we didn't put the fuse in.
Yep. So where is it?
Right here.
Yep.
Fuse goes left to right. didn't it?
Doesn't matter.
Yep, save it.
There's the fuse. So we know it's working.
13.1. It's like you have brand new batteries.
That's exactly what I
Oh, you have brand new batteries.
Oh yeah. And then positive on one side.
Here, I can help you with this.
Positive on the other. Wait. Make sure I'm going in the right one. Positive on this side. Positive.
Hang on, that's frayed. Let me fix it. Let me hold them and you do the screwing, okay?
Yes, sir.
Which one is it? Because I can't see it
It
from my
is
angle.
the bottom one.
So right here?
Yeah. So
I
you
can't
gotta go.
see what I'm doing.
You gotta go on one side and then go on the other.
I'll do it. So you're done on the roof, you say?
Everything's done.
You'd seal that penetration?
Yep.
Are you happy with it? Because I have ways that we can make it better if you're not.
No, that's perfect.
All right.
It's super sealed.
It's super sealed.
You guys saw it, I didn't.
All right. So all you have to do here is close this. Make sure we get all this stuff out of the way because I'm a clumsy person. And I will knock it all in there.
Clumsy,
That's
my
what I-
dumsy.
You making fun of me, boy? That's my son speaking, by the way.
Looks good. I like the
That
location you selected for the solar controller.
Man, cameras
Here we
make
go.
stuff look so
And then I just have to grab the screws from the. And this will come over here so my dogs don't get shocked to death.
Now, are we going to put some kind of a bracket behind that battery so it doesn't slide around?
Yeah, I've got some cable I'm gonna use.
Okay.
I just gotta. Oh, well, this needs to be. Come on. Be one with me. One with the wires. Just gotta get this up and over. There we go. And that'll
If this,
protect my dogs from being shocked. And
If
then,
this system ever stops working, what's the first thing you would do?
if it ever stopped working, the first
Yeah.
thing I'd check is the fuse, just to
Check
make the
the
fuse. And then after that, I'd check like connections.
Do we have something that we can plug in there, like a phone or something that we can just test it?
The wire.
We've got
USB connector.
reading on the inverter
13.
showing 13. You can probably cycle through and make it stay on 13 or stay on how much you're drawing. That other thing's how much you're drawing.
Okay.
So you're showing 13 volts. We're gonna plug our battery in. Green light comes on, you're charging. You got your inverter showing 13.1 on the solar controller. Do you know what that is? You know what you're doing?
I'm looking for the incoming. How much is it? How do I find that?
You're probably looking at it right now. Incoming is when the light's blinking,
Okay.
and it shows right here. So the first one was off, volts and amps, volts, amps out,
0.
amps in. There's your incoming. See how it's blinking?
Right.
That's your incoming. The sun's down. So amps in,
So it's pulling 0 right now.
pulling 0. You're at 13.1. So there we go. Let's put a wrap on this. There you have it. He's going to come back and put another bracket on the solar panels on the roof to make them tilt right. Sometimes when you're doing these jobs, you got to go back to the hardware store a couple times. I don't know if we're going to get that on film or not, so we're just going to talk about it now. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how an installation goes together. Every one of them is a little bit different. But with that, I just want to thank everyone that contributed to the equipment on this job. It's because you contributed and you're a booster on Patreon and you hit that PayPal donate button that we could put a solar system in like this. So you did this. Thank you very much for doing it. And what do you think?
I think it's perfect. I think it's going to work for us. I mean, I can't complain. Thank you everybody for helping, and I really do appreciate this. Yeah, it was a fun little project. I mean, I've never installed solar on anything. I do not understand how the wires work, but you know, having Jamie here and other people who were helping, that was pretty big, because I can't lift the panels by myself. My back's kind of, you know, doesn't work right. So
if you think this video could help a friend, please share it. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. That helps me grow the channel. And with that, I want to thank you for watching and thank you for contributing so that Donnie and his family will have power for a long time to come. And it just gives them one less thing to worry about on the road. All right, man.
thank you very
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Anything?